Hi viewers, my name is Femi and I welcome you to today's edition of Hard Topics. Today we shall look at a very important subject matter still in the line of our discourse on leadership, governance and politics and how you ascend the position of leadership. Today we shall look at three very critical important factors that can assist or that can help you to get into that position of leadership or prevent you from getting to that position of leadership. So we are looking at loyalty and dedication as the pathway to ascension and occupation of the throne. Loyalty and dedication as the pathway to ascension and possession of the throne. And today we shall take a look at examples, and as we do from the scriptures, looking at the life of two or three prominent people. But before we go deep into our discussion, I'd like to encourage you to click all the icons on your screen, to share these videos, and to click on the notification icon too, and subscribe to our channel so that you can get updates as we upload more videos. So let's get into it. Like I said, one of the most fundamental principles, factors, or issues that God Almighty detests in the life of every person on the face of the earth, especially a would-be leader, is a spirit of rebellion. Rebellion does not take you anywhere. In my previous videos, I've said it, and I've showed from examples in history and even from the scriptures that you as an individual can disagree with the constituted authority. You can disagree with constituted authority, but you have to do it in a constructive manner. However, when you go into areas of rebellion, anarchy, and disruptions of lives and properties, or the status quo, or the normal or smooth running of things, then you go into fundamental error, and there's a lot of consequences for it. One, those in authority will not sit back and allow you to destroy what they've built over the years, whether it's for good or bad, and so they will come for you. They will try to crush your rebellion, and if care is not taken, if you are not well guarded, if you are not under the right covering, then you might be destroyed. Even if your agitations or your reason for your complaint or quote unquote rebellion is right, is genuine, but once your agitations, once your dissatisfaction goes beyond what we can call constructive criticism, then it becomes a rebellion, it becomes a revolt. So it is very, very important that you watch the conduct of your activities, how you go against constituted authority in order for you to achieve whatever aim or grievances that you may be seeking to address. But further in this particular episode and this video, we shall look at some examples in the scriptures that shows us the particular traits and factors and characters that helps to determine whether one person gets into a position of leadership or not. Even if you have been anointed, even if you have been promised that you're going to be a leader, you're going to be great, or several promises has been made to you about you getting into that exalted position or as the head, you don't automatically get there. There's a process. And failure for you to follow the process in the right way may truncate whatever dream, whatever vision, whatever promises God has made for you as a leader. So the fact that you promised a particular position, or God has given certain promises as regard ascension, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your business, or whether it's in politics, does not mean you will get there. David was anointed king. It took several years, over a decade, before David eventually became the king. Joseph had a dream, and God had promised him that he was going to be a leader, was going to be a great world leader. It took at least a minimum of 13 years before Joseph ascended the throne. Joseph got into a position of leadership that God had promised him. So you can have those precious promises from God, but it takes a process. And there are some factors that are important. And one of the most important, or two of or three of the most important factors that you must understand, which I want to address right now, is that of loyalty and dedication. Loyalty and dedication to whoever you are, your superior or your leader. And it goes alongside rebellion, because rebellion is the opposite. When you rebel, then you are not loyal. When you rebel, then you are not dedicated. And I'll give you examples. In the Bible, God appointed Moses to be the leader of the children of Israel, to take them out of slavery to the promised land. And as time goes on, the work was so heavy for him, and he needed to appoint people to assist him. So he took the elders and gave them his authority, and God passed the Spirit upon them. But at the time God called Moses, God gave him his brother Aaron and his sister Miriam, who assisted him. In fact, it was his sister Miriam who nurtured him while he was a baby, and who watched him while he was in the house of Pharaoh. And so these were his family. And they were older than Moses, but God did not choose them. God chose Moses. And as time went on, when Moses grew and started getting into his position of leadership, there were other leaders in Israel then, in the covenant. There was Korah, Dathan, and Abiram too. Those two were leaders that Moses appointed. And the Bible also records that there was a young man or a young boy called Joshua who also attended to Moses. So they were all under the authority of Moses, and they were going. But at a point, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram rebelled against Moses. They rebelled against his constituted authority because they didn't accept, according to literature, rabbinic literature, and even the text, they didn't accept some of the way Moses conducted the affairs of the children of Israel, particularly the appointment of people into position or other priestly issues. And instead of confronting Moses, even though they did so, and dialoguing and reasoning with Moses, they decided to, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram decided to rebel against Moses. And because of that rebellion, God punished him. And even those who were associated with his household and those who were associated with him. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram were punished by God, were killed. It was recorded about 250 members of their families and households too. And those who they are co-opted into that rebellion, they were killed. If they had just rebelled or they had just disagreed with Moses, it would have been enough. But they didn't go. They turned into a big, widespread rebellion that they got people from other elders and other tribes, even another people, to join that rebellion and to rebel against Moses. And God was not right rebellion. Somewhere in 2 Samuel, it says that the act of rebellion is like witchcraft. So God despises it, and disobedience and rebellion is like witchcraft. It's like sorcery. And so God will immediately deal with that. Whatever position they might have, they were seeking for, that they wanted to get into, they lost it because they rebelled. Their grievances, their criticism was not done in a constructive manner. And so they were never loyal, and they were never dedicated to Moses. The same thing even happened to Miriam and Aaron. They questioned the authority of Moses because Moses has told them, look, God said, you Israelis, you should not marry no other person but Israelis. And Moses went ahead to marry an Ethiopian woman. And Miriam and Aaron were angry. And they rebelled against Moses. And because of that, God punished Miriam with leprosy. Although Moses eventually prayed for her and she was healed. Just to show that God does not, support a rebellion one way or the other. And these were the people working with Moses. But there was another young man called Joshua. And Joshua was dedicated and served the need of Moses. Never rebelled against Moses. Of course, he might have his disagreement, but he never rebelled against Moses. And when it was time for the baton to be passed, who did God give the baton to? It was Joshua, not even Aaron. Aaron, who was of the priestly, who was Moses' brother. Who was the tribe of Levi? The priest. The authority wasn't given to him. It was given to what? To whom? To Joshua, because Joshua demonstrated the spirit of what? Humility, dedication, and loyalty. Let's look at even the life of Elijah and Elisha. Elijah had the school of prophet. There were several prophets there. And when Elijah was about to leave, Elisha steadfastly dedicated himself in loyalty to Elijah. Even when he was going, other prophets said, don't you see that your master will be taken away from you? You should better go about your own business. But Elisha never turned his back. He was faithful. He was loyal. He was dedicated to his master. Even when people were saying all manner of things, all kind of bad things about Elijah, Elisha stuck loyally and dedicatedly to Elijah. And when the baton was to be passed, the baton was passed on to Elisha. I believe there were other prophets, maybe some those who were older than even Elisha at that time. But because of his spirit of loyalty and dedication, he never rebelled against his master Elijah. Elijah made so many fundamental errors, but Elisha was dedicated today. And because he was dedicated to him and he supported him and was never rebellious, he got handed down the authority mantle of leadership. The third person we'll look at is even David. When David killed Goliath, or even before David killed Goliath, David had been serving in the courtyard of Saul, and he served him faithfully. Then Saul promoted him. And after David killed the Goliath, yes, he made him a general. But Saul became jealous. And then Saul demoted David from the chief security officer to the chief defense officer. He demoted him to just an ordinary garrison or commander, or just an ordinary officer. Then Saul attempted to kill David. In spite of all this, David still remained loyal to Saul and to the cause of the Israelis. He never rebelled. Even though he ran away to save his life. And when he had the opportunity to kill Saul, he didn't even kill him. Because he knew, understood constitutional authority. So he waited. He never rebelled. He was loyal, dedicated, and faithful to his master. And when the time came, David was made king after Saul died. He didn't have to shed bloodshed. He didn't have to shed, quote unquote, the blood of his master. Just like Korah, Dathan, and Abiram did. Just like even Moses, Aaron, and Miriam did. They didn't have to betray, because it's not until you kill somebody physically, when you betray them, when you betray the trust, when you are disloyal to them, when you unjustly, unfairly criticize them, and make the administration of the governance and the administration very difficult. That you try to turn the mind of the people against the constitutional authority. Then it's like shedding blood. You don't do that as someone who wants to aspire to position of leadership. Because guess what? No matter the promises God has given you, if you are rebellious to those you are on, that has an authority over you, you don't get there. You will never get into that position of leadership. Even here in the United States of America, I know a very prominent political leader who was in the opposition party to a president. And events now, and it was very, very, very against the policies of the president. Yes, there's room for constructive criticism. There's room for politics, but there's a limit. It went into very, 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 very unpalatable things, comments, even going along racial lines. And when I began to saw that, God said, look, see, this person may not get there. We've even seen that it was even part of a major event of rebellion that took place in the country. Even that's on the website for now, but I know in due course, in due season, that will be raised up. And even though he was doing that so that he could become the runner of his political party, unfortunately, somebody from the outside came and took everything away. and he became a forgotten nobody. He even became a villain in his own party that he thought he was going to get there because he rebelled against the constituted authority that was ahead of him, that he promised or swore allegiance to. When you make sow allegiance to, or when there's a considered authority over you, you can disagree with them on policy, you can disagree with them on direction, but you don't rebel against them. Remain loyal and dedicated. When you remain loyal and dedicated, then it is guaranteed that you will ascend the throne when your time comes. These leaders are not stupid. They see. They see. So David dedicatedly served Saul in spite of all the opposition. And guess what? When Saul's days was over and his time was gone, after a while, David had generally trouble without having to kill anybody, without having to rebel against anybody. And when David became king himself, two of his sons rebelled against him. First was Absalom. I think his third son, but his preferred son. Absalom rebelled against him. And Absalom died while trying to kill his father. And I think the third one was Adonijah. Adonijah was another one too, who rebelled against him, who tried to usurp the king while David was old and was about to die, and they wanted to become king at all costs. And as a result, of course, it was schemed out. And the one that was dedicated, Solomon, because the Bible records that Solomon was ministering to the needs of his father. Solomon was in his courtyard. He was being trained by, I think, the prophet Nathan, that David had put Solomon in charge of, and others. But at the time that David was old, it was recorded that Solomon was close by him. That is loyalty. That is dedication. And as such, Solomon was serving David, while I think Adonijah was outside there trying to rebel and trying to do all kinds of things, trying to scheme. And guess what? Solomon was handed over the kingdom. And God even instructed David even instructed Solomon on what to do. That he had to purge Joab the general, and even Adonijah, who tried to also usurp the kingdom from Solomon. But the point here is that you could see that all these people who eventually ascended the throne, who eventually got into the position of leadership that God had promised them, they were dedicated, they were loyal. The same thing happened to Joseph. Even when Potiphar's wife lied against him, tried to tell him to do what was wrong to sleep with him, he knew that he had to be loyal to his master. The master never accused him of stealing money or anything. And because of his loyalty, even though he suffered for a while, he got to the throne. He got to the position, to the promise God has given to him. We saw in the life of David and even Ahithophel, when Ahithophel tried to cancel I think Absalom to kill David, and that God had to bring what's the other advisor to thwart that counsel. Ahithophel, seeing that his counsel was not taken, decided to commit suicide. The same thing happened in the life of Judas when he tried to betray Jesus Christ, and the fact that plan failed, he committed suicide. So there is no there's nothing to rebellion. There's no power to rebellion. Yes, you can disagree. You can be in opposition, but be in opposition constructively. However, do not try to usurp the authority of a duly constituted government or constituted authority wherever you are, whether in your place of work. Oh, you can say they are not smart. Somebody asked me a question. He says, what if you're working in an organization and you notice a problem and it seems that nobody is taking notice of that problem, and this problem is so great, and I said levels will fall. I said, look, let me give you a good example. Let's say you are working in an organization and it's a 25-story building, right? And you are working on the first or second floor, but the managing director, chief executive, is working on the 25th floor. And um, maybe outside your building, near you, the electrical wiring downstairs, a bulldozer or a bulldozer or what a tractor or truck comes in there and creates a crater, a big hole that's like the size that could consume the size of a car. Let's say it's a small sedan, and creates there that even if you put a sedan there, that sedan will fall into it. It creates that crater there. You can see it's a big hole, and if it's not well taken care of, that may extend and maybe cause a sinkhole to the entire building. Now, because you're on the first or second floor, you can see that that crater is big. That hole is big, and so you know that you can swallow up a sedan, maybe one of those small mid-sized sedans. I don't want to mention their name now. Okay, because you are closer to it, you can see that problem. So your first responsibility is, because you have noted that problem, because you are close to it, then it is your duty to escalate it to those in authority over you and say, sir, if you have the ability to deal with it, that is under your purview, your responsibility, then cover it up. But if you cannot, then escalate it to those ahead of you. If you make it known the first time, there's no response. You make it known the second time, there's no response. By the third time, you have done. Let it be known that you have done the little that you can do. It's just like in your place of work, you find people stealing money, they are corrupt and they're stealing to me. Yes, as a Christian, as a believer, as an upright person, you don't have to join them. Now, you don't really necessarily have to snitch, but you cover your own ends such that when they do anything, they don't trace it to you. And one way or the other, you can directly make recommendations and send it to those in authority in the field of whatever. Like, look, there seems to be systems wrong here. Do you want to do an internal audit? Do you want to share things? Do you want to suggest that maybe an audit should be done? Do you suggest that the processes of verification or accounting should be adjusted? And you can make several recommendations like that. That does not mean you are not snitching. You are snitching on the person. But at least it has been said that you have done your own part because you have identified the problem. And you are trying to take a step towards to solve the problem because you are also responsible for seeing the problem and not doing anything. So you escalate it to those in authority and let them deal with it. If you have done first, second, third time and nobody is paying attention to you, then let it be said that you have done the little part you can and you cover your own ends. So that's the first implication. Because you are closer to it, you see it. So it's a big problem to you. And your solution is to escalate it to those in authority. However, the managing director or the chief executive on living on the 20th floor sees it to you is a big crater that can swallow a car. But when he's looking at it from the top here, it's just like a small, tiny speck. There's a small, maybe the tip of a ballpoint pen. So to him, it's a very small issue. To you, it's a big problem because you are closer to the ground. But he is very far off. And that's what that is telling you is experience. Because you are younger, you are new there, you are at that level, you don't have experience. But he has saying he knows that it's a small problem, and that other problem will close up, will be solved. And I've given this example before. In my country of birth, Nigeria, there was a time when we had a president called Olusegun Obasanjo. And I think it was between 1999 and 2003. We had just got into the fourth go of the democracy. And some states of the north, chiefly some states of the north, were trying to introduce Sharia, Islamic law, in their states. And by the Nigeria is a very secular state, so it's multi-religious, multi-ethnic, everything. It's a very secular state, so nobody can say Nigeria is a religious state. It's about 50% Christian and Muslims, and there are so many practitioners of all other means of worship, what you collectively call traditional means of worship. And the Constitution allows everybody freedom of religion. And so those in some of these northern states were now threatening to impose Sharia law on people that live freely under the common law system in the country. And it became a huge problem, became a huge threat. Everybody was afraid. And I remember when somebody asked the then President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was the former head of state as a military head of state in, I think, 1976 to 1979 or thereabout, left office, handed over to the civilian government. Then in 1999 came back into office again and ran for 2 terms. But because he was with the system. When they asked that question, he told everybody, he said, please calm down. He said, this Sharia thing is just a thing for this moment. It's going to fizzle out. A lot of people were scared. I was scared too. A lot of my friends were scared. Oh, Sharia law was threatening to take control of every part of the land and upend the lives of people that have lived peacefully with their neighbors. And when he said that, he said, look, relax, calm down. This Sharia thing is just a contraption of this moment. It will soon fizzle out. We didn't believe in them. We were not sure then. But lo and behold, Sharia, within the space of 2-3 years, all the threats about Sharia just fizzled out. And there was nobody's talking about Sharia. Even though they still practice Sharia law, they still use it. It's part of the constitution in the country. But nobody really bothers about it anymore. Because it was a contraption at that time. And because Obasanjo, who was an experienced politician, who had been head of state, who had lived in the north, who had lived in the east, who had friends and who had relations with everybody, he understood what was going on. So he was able to allay the fears of everybody and calm everybody down. That is experience. For someone like me who was younger then, I think a college student then, and other people who did not understand what was going on, we were all afraid. We were all apprehensive that our lives was going to be upended, and things were going to, our method of living was going to be changed. But because of the experience the man had, he had to calm us down and he had to handle the situation. And where it is, everybody's living freely, working. Sharia is not a threat anymore. So you may not understand, but the person on the top who has experience here knows that what you are thinking as a big problem is a very small problem, and it's really not something you should worry yourself about. So don't go into rebellion. Don't say, oh, because I've been trying to tell them, oh, they didn't get this right. Then you're not going to revolt. If you want to withdraw, you can withdraw and go and do your own thing separately. And say, I don't want to be part of the system. I want to go separate. That's fine. But don't lead rebellion. That was what Korah, Dathan, and Abiram did. That was what Miriam and Moses Aaron were about to do. That was what Adonijah and even Absalom did. They led rebellion, they led revolt against constituted authority. And then they were punished, and they are punished with their lives. So you must understand that for you to ascend the throne, for you to ascend any position of leadership that God has given to you, God will bring a test and He will put you under some persons, and they will use you. They will rub it off hard on you. But if you are loyal and dedicated to that person, and in the areas where they don't even use, where they're not tough on you, as long as you have remained loyal and dedicated to them, you have committed yourself to them, you're committed to them, they follow through. When the time comes for leadership, you are probably one of the first persons they will consider for leadership because of your loyalty and dedication. Even if you are not as skillful as qualified as some other people, it is very, very important. So when next time you have opportunity to get into position of leadership or to serve under somebody in authority, consider authority over you, go there and serve with loyalty, with dedication, with sincerity, and with the best of your ability. Don't go into rebellion. Don't go into leading other people to rebel against the constituted authority, even if you disagree with them on genuine policies, on genuine direction, on genuine issues. Even if you are right, you can find a way of constructively expressing your viewpoint without leading to rebellion.